Okay, let's go. This is round 4, and here I played against someone who I've seen play before in the last tournament. And one thing I noticed about their playstyle is that the way I would describe their playstyle is they play like an engine, except they never pick the best move. They always picked either the second or the third best move. It's every time I look at their position, it's just I have an idea of an intuitive move that makes sense and that's probably good enough in the position, and they never play it. And now I managed to play against them, so let's see what happened here. The first non-Sicilian game as well. I play a d4 structure, and I played e6 here. On the board next to me I also saw this position, and there the white player played knight c3, and I was prepared for knight c3, but my opponent in this game played knight f3. So I play c5, which is something I'm used to, and I enjoy playing this. And my opponent apparently did not, so they don't push, which is probably the correct move. Instead they played knight c3 and allowed me to just take. Knight takes. And here I basically was on my own. I did not know anything about this position. There were some, I can see that there are some knight b5 things, or this knight. In which case I should probably play d6 very soon, which is why I moved my bishop out first. I went bishop b4 here. Bishop d2. And on knight b5 I just have d6 now, and I'm totally fine, and then I can kick the knight with a6. So I don't need to worry about that anymore, so I just castle. a3 happened here, and I did not want to... I considered bishop e7, but I really didn't like that, because I was probably going to be forced to play d6 anyways in that line, and I didn't really like it. So I just take, and my opponent takes back with the bishop. That makes sense. Wow, makes sense. Yeah. And the reason I do that is to get a tempo so I can play d5 here immediately, which seems accurate, which seems strong. Yeah, and from there I can just go develop my pieces, and I'm just okay here already, I think. e3, I played knight c6, just developing. I was threatening c4, by the way, kind of. Don't think I would have taken. But yeah, knight c6, bishop e2. And if I want to take, here would be the point, here would be the time to take, but I again didn't. I played knight e4 because this I can actually win the bishop pair back by force here, because I attack all four of those squares with my two knights, and so yeah. Here I assumed something like rook c1, but they play queen c2. Rook c1 makes, queen c2 also makes sense, but rook c1 I assumed would be better because the c file, there can be some some pressure on the c file with the rook, and with the queen it's a lot less because I can put a rook there. But queen c2 also attacks this knight, so I can't ever take or anything. And here I decided to play some tactical maneuver. It's kind of tactical. I decided to basically use the fact that there's a pawn here and that this diagonal is blocked to play queen g5, which is kind of a French type of idea. it attacks here and defends this pawn, or this point, so I can try to play e5 and not be under much danger. I decided in this moment that after knight f3 I would still take on g2. So knight f3 I would take on g2 despite this, because of queen takes f2 check. And then I can solve this with like I'd probably take here and play like f6. Yeah, -2. On g3 I'd also be happy probably. On castle, then the second part of my tactic starts, but I did have to calculate move orders a lot, but they did castle. So now I want to play e5, e5, and bishop h3. e5 means that I can develop this bishop, and bishop h3 almost wins here. Almost wins something. The first issue is that e5 knight f3, so I had to get rid of this knight, and so I did that immediately. And then here both recaptures make sense to me. I did assume pawn takes, and then I would just, instead of doing my entire thing, I would just take here, probably queen takes, actually maybe not, maybe just pawn takes, and take here, and develop and be a bit better, I'm assuming. Yeah, it's drawish though. On queen takes, let's say, yeah, then it's an isolated queen pawn position with low pieces, and I'm a bit better. I assume that everything that I'm just, it's basically equal after pawn takes, which is why they played the bishop takes, of course. But now I get e5, kind of. It's still still not completely easy, because there are some issues with taking here, and my knight is hanging. And if I take, you defend this pawn as well. I think it's probably okay. You have to take with the pawn, otherwise I take here. I'm down a pawn here. But I think I've got a bit of apparently this is terrible for me. Maybe you do this first, but then you lose a second pawn. Yeah, that's also terrible. I think this is probably the I can also play bishop f5 here, but then bishop d3. You can probably do the same thing. Yeah, I have to take again. But this is probably a better version for me, yeah, and because I win my pawn back. Let's say this. And here it's basically equal. This pawn is a bit weak, but it's probably just a draw. And if you take here, then I get this, I believe. Apparently that's still fine. But yeah, fortunately none of that happened. C takes d5 is definitely the move here, but they made a mistake with move order, and instead of taking here and assuming the knight moves, they get bishop c5 or something, or even maybe they were planning this. which is terrible. Yeah, that makes sense. That's terrible. Instead of doing that, they just play bishop c5 immediately and just lose it. So this game is basically over already. It does get even worse though. They take my pawn and I play bishop h3. You can't play... you can't put anything on e4. You can't play bishop f3. Because of e4. No, actually you can play bishop f3. But e4 is on its way. And rook c8 is on its way, and if the queen moves off of this diagonal, I get e4, and then it's just game over. Or moves away from the defense of e4. If not, then I get a discovered attack somehow. And my calculations were e4 regardless, because the discovered attack isn't that deadly. Knight e6, queen goes, let's say, here. That makes sense. Actually, not d3. Let's say e2. No. I don't know where it would make sense. Maybe b3. That would make sense. And my calculation was knight d4. But my opponent also mentions knight f4, which is probably just better. But yeah. So that's what I assumed e4, but instead queen b1 happened here. And this is way worse actually, because of knight b3, and I'm also going to d2, which is just game over. My opponent still didn't concede. Queen d3, take, and now bishop f5, which I really enjoy. This move, I looked at it for a total of 10 seconds, and I saw that e4 didn't work. That's basically all I saw. So I played bishop f5, and it turns out there are so many more things that this does that are great for me. It allows me to force through e4 as well, and it gets me the second rank. And where does the queen go? Like, really? There aren't really any good squares for it. Maybe b3, but then I still just get this and get the other rook to c8, and I wish you the best of luck. The queen did go to b3, and instead of playing rook c2, I decided to play e4, and then just put pressure on this pawn. Bishop e2, and so I can now start going after the king again, or I can do what I did, which probably, this is the type of thing that makes opponents hate me. I just played queen e7, just defend this, defend against d6, give my opponent no chance, and I don't want to continue analyzing this game, but like, I'm up a rook and have compensation, and like, I eventually get this pawn and push some pawns on the king side and deliver checkmate on move 39. But yeah, I think it's basically just done here already. I just play rook d8, queen, actually something like this maybe, and yeah, there's just nothing. Okay, so let's see how I did. There's only one critical moment in this game, I think. This makes sense still. A3, taking apparently is suboptimal, but it's fine. Rook e8. I did not look at rook e8 at all. That does not make sense to me. This does make sense to me though. That you should take, probably take on d5. Because then I need to take on d4 in between. Otherwise I'd be stuck with an isolated pawn somewhere, either on d5 or on c6. And now I get this, queen c2. Apparently queen f6. I looked at queen f6, but I thought that that was a bit bullshit due to moving into a discovered attack. Yeah, this makes sense to me as well. Apparently bishop takes is correct. Oh yeah, because this is not good. Which makes total sense. f4. Yeah. That's not the type of move that I would look at. Bishop here, this... Yeah, I'm just down a pawn here. And bishop c5 of course loses a piece. Apparently it's not even accurate to take it. Nice. But yeah, c takes d5. Oh yeah, that was the line. So I can just win my pawn back. h4, Jesus. Okay, it's kind of scary, but I mean, I'll probably just win this pawn back, right? Maybe not. Yeah, I do remember knight takes f2 as an option. Yeah, and that's fancy as well. But I'm not down a pawn right now, and yeah, that's at least something. Yeah, I just take the bishop, and here it's just all terrible. Rook c8. Yeah, you don't want to do anything really. Queen b1 definitely isn't it, but yeah. And bishop f5, not the best move, but it's one of the better moves. Yeah, and there's just nothing. I'm up a rook and have compensation. Okay, yeah, that was another quick game. There are two more that... and I'm oh, kind of also important. I won the last two, so I'm currently at 2.5 out of 4. And there are two more games to go. Yeah. We'll see how I get there. Last time, this same tournament, I got 2.5 out of 6. Winning the last 1.5 points in the last 2 matches. So now I only need half a point in the last 2 matches to beat my previous record. We'll see if I actually manage to get half a point in 2 matches. I mean, should be doable, right? See you there.